Hi, this is Bernadette Logue from pinchmeliving.com, and today's audio topic is how the universe is speaking to you with signs and why it's really important for you to be tuning into those and paying attention and how that can help you in your life. So let's get into that right now. So to start off the audio, I just want to share that this topic is so awesome, it's so powerful, and it's so deep. There's so much to say about this topic that I haven't dedicated an audio or a video on YouTube to it before. And the reason is I didn't feel and haven't felt that there was possibility for me to do it justice with smaller little snippets here and there, because it is one of my primary, most passionate topics. And what I did actually was spend a couple of years writing books on this topic. So my first two books, Pinch Me and Going Out on a Limb, are very in-depth stories about how following universal signs can change your life and exactly how I did that. But I'm feeling intuitively guided now to talk about it. And I want to share in this audio how it is that the universe is speaking to you, why it is speaking to you, and why it's important for you to tune into that and to have fun with it and to remember how guided and supported you are. So first clarification before we talk about how it is that universe speaks to you is to say when I say the universe speaking to you or life speaking to you, I use the terms universal and life synonymous with a source energy, with creation, with the source of all creation, with higher intelligence, with the quantum field. Whatever words you use, I use it synonymously with God. It's whatever you see as the foundation behind the universe and how that works and how that is supporting you. Don't get too caught on the individual words because it's different for everyone. We're all living from our own paradigm. And we've all got our own way of wording and perceiving. But it's important to look at the bigger picture. So just understand that the terminology I'm using is spread across all of those different facets. Now in terms of how the universe is guiding you, I'm going to give you roughly 4 categories of the types of signals or the reasons that signals come into your life, okay? And this is based on, I've now been following divine guidance in my life for 5 years. And when I say following, I mean regularly, daily and weekly documenting, journaling, writing about, making decisions upon, taking intuitive guidance and signs, and then practically doing things personally and professionally aligned to that guidance. This is not fluffy, on the edge, not actually tangible and practical. I've made significant changes in financial, career, health, relationships, from what I do to where I live, etc., based on divine guidance. And what I've noticed over the 5 or so years that I've been doing that, and from observing other people's experience of it, and from doing my own research and experiential learning, is that signals tend to arrive into our life for around 4 reasons, depending on our circumstance and situation. So divine signs aren't there every second of every day. It's a case of they come into our lives and they seem to come for these particular reasons. So the first reason is that they come into our life like a confirmation. So you are consciously, with your thinking mind and your personality, wanting something and heading in a certain direction. So you're putting your belief, thought, feeling and action in a particular direction, positively or negatively. Now, if you do that with a positive vision and you're working towards something and you're heading in a certain direction, it's like the universe can show up and speak to you with signs like synchronicities, coincidences, songs in your head, people showing up at the right time, repeating messages and information you start to notice in your life as a confirmation of the direction you're already heading in. Almost like it's mirroring to you what you're wanting to create and the path that you're taking and the flow that you're in. It's like you're in your slipstream, because more of what you need shows up. It's that sense of magnetizing and drawing into your life more of what you're already focusing on, and people understand that if they're into things like law of attraction. So it's almost like you get the sense of when you're driving down the road and there's just green light after green light after green light. It's that kind of feeling where you just keep having things come into your path and it feels like confirmation day after day of what it is that you're focused on creating. And it's a very positive and uplifting feeling because it feels like life is on your side and the universe is listening to you and it's reflecting back to you what you know you want and what you know is possible for yourself. Now the next kind of signal is what I would call pure guidance, and what I mean by pure guidance is, or soul guidance, is that you can have signs show up in your life from the universe which have nothing to do with what you're consciously focusing your attention on, nothing to do with what your thinking mind is focused on, nothing to do with the vision that you hold for yourself in your life, and nothing to do with what your personality self wants. Because remember, we come in and we have soul intention. Our soul's here for learning. Our soul's here for growth. And our personality self down here in mind and body is about reconnecting and realigning ourselves with that higher aspect of who we are and that bigger, higher perspective of life and how we can be contributing and following our biggest potential here in this world. And so signals can show up in your life as a way to call you into a new direction, to wake you up, to shake you up, to bring you and call you forth, beckoning you to look at something different, to see something different, perhaps to turn direction slightly, perhaps to open your mind in a new direction. I'm going to give you a really powerful example of how that happened in my own life and literally how incredibly life-changing it can be. And it's so important that I want you to be paying attention to signals in your own life for that very reason, particularly if you're interested in finding greater soul alignment and purpose in your work and what you feel like you're here for in life, etc. The third type of signal that I've noticed is when people are in some kind of challenge. So physically, mentally, emotionally, circumstantially, whatever it might be, facing some kind of challenge and are feeling down or lost or confused or simply unsure about what direction to take. You can have signs or signals show up in your life that are purely about support. All they are is empowerment. So they're there to remind you of your divine nature. They're there to tell you that you're supported. They're there to make you feel loved. They're there to wrap you up and lift you up and almost like wrap a hug around you at a difficult time. Now, there are different ways that that can happen. I've noticed that it happens for people often through the songs that they notice running through their head. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, but songs can just pop into your head from nowhere. You haven't heard them, you haven't been thinking about them, and all of a sudden you start to notice the song has been going over and over in your head. And often if you look at the lyrics, they will be spot on speaking to you about the situation you're in and what divinity wants you to know and remember. And I'm telling you, I've documented that over 5 years, and it is so spot on, literally mind-blowing about some of the random lyrics that can come into your head and how they directly relate to your life experience and circumstance at that time. The fourth kind of signal that can come into your life is what I call an interruption signal. This is when you are heading in a direction that doesn't serve you or doing something to yourself or to your life that is just not in your best interest. You're being unconscious, you're not awake, you are lost in your mind, you are not looking after your physical body, you're not looking after your emotional, mental health, or perhaps you are stuck in a rut somewhere or in some situation or circumstance that just doesn't serve you, and you either don't realize it or you do realize it, but you don't have the courage perhaps at that time or the knowledge or the motivation to make a change, and it's like life will come and knock you over the head with a brick or feel like a slap around the face to bump you and interrupt the pattern and to bump you out of that stuck mode and back into your flow. I talk in my books about it being like you're flowing in a river. When you're flowing with your alignment of your soul path, it's like you're flowing in that river and it's free flow. It feels good and you're in your slipstream. And sometimes we get beached on the riverbank and life can come to help us get back in our flow with these interruption signals. Often things like losing a job unexpectedly, when a redundancy or a company closure or a health issue, accidents, these kind of things that can just come along and sort of suddenly interrupt your pattern and force you into a different direction, which at the time it might seem like is a really negative thing, but actually in retrospect often you'll look back and you'll realize that that was a blessing because it actually sent you in a direction that would better serve you and you couldn't see how bad things were or the direction you were heading in or what you were doing wasn't good for you. And the important thing to remember about that is to realize that sometimes when it looks like life is negative or you're having challenges and you're in circumstances which are incredibly difficult, is that sometimes things have to fall apart in order for them to come back together in a better form. And the analogy that I like is that a caterpillar in a cocoon has to literally dissolve its form and turn into complete chaos within that cocoon to then be able to be rebuilt and reformed into a butterfly. So sometimes it takes a breakdown in order to have a breakthrough in your life. So just remember that if you're ever experiencing challenges. So signals can come in those circumstances as well. So those are 4 reasons. Now we want to look at some actual specific examples, and I'm going to give you some from my own life and I'm going to give you some from a couple of clients as well, just different ones to give you a sense. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail with them because they're documented in my books and I can talk about those in more detail on future videos, but I want to give you a sense. And the reason I want to just give you a sense is I want to inspire you to look for them in your own life. I want to inspire you to be consciously aware in your own life and to remember how supported you are. That these examples of what's happened to me and other people, my clients, are not somebody that is unique or different. Everybody is exactly the same. It's just if you're aware of it or you're not aware of it, and that's the only factor. Now, an example of confirmation signals is one that I give in my book in a lot of detail, and it is when my husband and I decided to take a sabbatical from New Zealand and we went to Thailand for 3 months. Now, we set our vision to do that, and we thought it was quite an outrageous thing to do at that time for various circumstantial reasons. And so we put it out that we wanted to do it, and we said to the universe, if this is in our highest and best good, please give us signs and signals to support this. We create the vision, we put our intent on it, and then it was absolutely absurdly ridiculous the number of signals that we got about Thailand. It was showing up everywhere. It was showing up in people's comments to us and conversations. We saw literal posters and signs and advertising about it everywhere. I had a dream and I had a particular message about a particular place in Thailand come to me, which was really random, and we actually ended up going to that place and having a transformative experience there for me because of that dream. That was a universal signal. We have had an example where my husband was walking to work one day and looked down, and on the footpath there was a card had fell out of somebody's wallet, and he looked at it and it looked like it was a credit card, and he leant down and flipped it over, and it wasn't a credit card, it was a frequent flyer airline card, and it was for Thai Airways on a random street on his walk to work in Auckland, New Zealand. And there were so many examples like that. So what I want you to do is realize that is not coincidence. Coincidence is not really coincidence. What it is it's flow and slipstream, and it's the universe calling to you and putting together all the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle to help you navigate and to help support you and guide you on your journey. Now I'm going to give you an example about the guidance type signal. So this is where the universe is guiding you more into your soul alignment, more into your soul purpose, more in a direction that is completely random and outside of your current sphere of thinking, outside of your current consciousness. It might be something that's been lingering in the back of your mind, but I'm going to give you an example from my own life that went way outside of the bounds of anything that I could have come up with on my own. So this was 5 years ago, before I was doing Pinch Me Living, and I was in my corporate career back in New Zealand doing consulting type work and leadership, and I had no experience in spirituality, no experience in energy work, no experience in healing work. It was not even on my radar. It was even not of interest. All I knew is that I wasn't doing what I really wanted, and I was feeling confused about what to do and how to find my purpose and my soul type work. And I knew that there must be something, and I was feeling a little bit shaken up, like there was change needed to happen, but I didn't know what to do. And through a series of conversations with people, I ended up getting interested in spirituality and ended up going to a spiritual advisor and doing a spirituality course. And then as soon as I did that, into my sphere came so many signals about healing specifically. So just the word healing. I would turn on the radio and there would be an advertisement about healing. Somebody erected a billboard at the end of my street in my random little suburb that I lived in, and it was on a big wire fence, and the billboard said healing event at a local church. I didn't go to church. I'd never been to a healing event. I didn't even know what healing meant really. There were so many other things like that about healing, people mentioning things in conversations, randomly coming across books which referenced healing. I had songs come into my head and I looked up the lyrics and they were about healing. It was very, very bizarre. So what I did was I followed the signals, and I ended up following those signals, the particular healing things that came into my path, and I ended up going to a training course, and I became trained in energy work and energy healing. And that fundamentally changed my life forever and sent me in a whole new direction, which led me to do my Pinch Me Living business, which led me to be a transformation coach and an energy healer, an energy worker, a retreat leader, and has totally changed my whole life. So guidance signals from the universe are incredibly powerful, and I want you to pay attention to signs because it has that power to make that big a difference in your life. I'll give you a quick little example also about a support signal. So when I was publishing my first book, I sent off my manuscript to a whole lot of publishers, and I got my first rejection back in the mail. And for anyone who's ever been rejected with something that they're very passionate about, you know it can be a very disheartening and challenging process. So my first manuscript rejection from a publisher came in the post, and it was returned, like the big hefty document that it was, in a courier bag, and my husband had cleared the mailbox. When he brought the manuscript in, he put it down on the table in front of me, and I knew for sure that that was my first manuscript rejection by just looking at the courier bag. And then he turned and looked at me and he said, don't cry or get upset, because the universe has sent you a very funny message to help you keep this in perspective. And on top of the manuscript, he put an advertising brochure that had been sitting on the manuscript in the letterbox. And the advertising brochure was from a company that we had never had a brochure from before, and it was a septic tank cleaning company, because we lived on an island where you had septic tanks at your house. And the advertising brochure title said, and excuse my language, it said, "Shit happens. Call us for your septic tank cleaning service needs." And I looked at that brochure and I laughed at a moment when I ordinarily would have probably cried. And I knew right then and there that that was a message from the universe supporting me to say, this is not the end, this is only the very beginning, and shit does happen, and it's not going to stop you. And of course it didn't. And that's just one little example. And of course, over other challenging times, I know for myself, my clients, and other people in my life, they have noticed songs in their head that have had really supportive and loving lyrics about whatever it was they were going through, or they've had people show up in their life just when they needed them, who offered support and guidance, whatever it might be. I'll give you a couple of examples from my clients' lives. There's one from a client of mine, and it's a really, really beautiful confirmation signal, kind of confirmation and kind of guidance mixed together. So basically, she had been experiencing anxiety, and she had taken up Kundalini Yoga, and Kundalini Yoga had become something that was really valuable and helpful in her life. During one particular retreat experience, doing a particular Kundalini mantra, she had her first major divine soul-aligned moment where she really felt her divine nature, and she really felt connected to source and divinity, and it was truly transformational for her, and she had not had that kind of experience to that extent again. And recently she was really struggling with some challenges and feeling very anxious, and we talked about whether she had been continuing her Kundalini practice or not, and she said she hadn't. So she decided to get back on the horse and get back into her Kundalini practice, and she went to a yoga class, and in that particular Kundalini yoga class they handed out a written copy of a mantra for everybody. When she looked down at the mantra on the sheet, it was the exact mantra that she had done some years earlier at the retreat, that had been the moment when she'd had that divine connection, that real sense of oneness and of universal love and of her soul. And she'd not had that since, and she had not seen that mantra or used that mantra since that day. And here it was, for only the second time, showing up to her when she returned to this Kundalini Yoga class in search of rebalancing herself. Now that to me is a clear-cut call from the universe to say, you are exactly where you need to be. You've come home. This is your practice. This practice is beneficial for you. This is exactly where you need to be, and this is really good for you. So that's an example where you could gloss over that and say that's nothing, and that's not nothing. That is a really beautiful signal, and it was a great confirmation for her and a great guidance back into her knowing logically and sensibly in her own mind what would be powerful for her and for her soul. And I'll give you another example from a client of mine in the United States who is looking to move to a country that is very dear to her heart, which is Austria. And she's looking to get opportunities over there in teaching. And teaching is her original career field that she's not currently working in. So she's been putting it out to the universe and paying attention to signals that might be showing up in her life. Now she was at an event like an expo, and it was unrelated to anything to do with Austria. It was unrelated to anything to do with teaching, and she ended up having this really interesting conversation with this woman, totally unrelated to anything to do with Austria again, and for some reason she ended up just blurting out to this woman that she wanted to move to Austria. And the woman didn't say anything, but she just looked at her very strangely, and my client said back, "What is it? Do you know someone in Austria?" And out of this random moment of intuition of my client blurting out her dream to go to Austria to this complete stranger, the woman replied to say, "Actually, I do know someone in Austria. I know someone very close to me who works at a teaching college in Austria." And my client was just astounded. That actually happened for her twice. She was at a night course, unrelated again, and someone at that course knew someone in Austria who had worked in the education arena. It is completely bizarre and totally not coincidental, and really awesome that these kinds of things come up. When you want to do something, large, small, crazy, absurd, no matter what it is, big dream, small thing, it doesn't matter. Put it out to the universe and ask for signs. Then open up your heart and open up to the people that come into your path. Be open to following your intuition, saying what's in your heart, asking questions, being curious, getting out there, paying attention to how life is talking to you, because it's all there to guide you. And it's not about saying that every particular signal that comes into your life is going to be your golden ticket. This is where people get caught. Oh, well, I got this sign and I followed it and it didn't go anywhere. So it's obviously not a sign and it's obviously not how it works. That's not true at all. What happens is that signs come in almost like a reaction to our energy, a reflection, okay? And remember, they can guide you. Sometimes they might guide you to what seems like a dead end. But do you know what it does? It opens you up. You learn something as you zigzag across. You might want to go from point A to point B directly, but sometimes you've got to wind your way there on a winding path or zigzag so you can learn things along the way, or so that you can expand your context, expand your understanding, gather information, so that when you do reach your destination and achieve whatever goal or dream it is that you're looking to create, you're forearmed and you're prepared and you've got lots of tools in your toolkit, and you arrive in the way that is highest and best, not only for you and your personality self and in your mind and the way you think it should happen, but in the way that is best for your soul and all other people involved. Because it's not just about what you want. You're one of many on the planet and many souls having life journeys, and it's all woven together. So it always happens in the best way for all people involved. Which is really good to just expand on the next point which I wanted to make, which is how do you sort of interpret and interact with signals? And people want to think that it is black and white. It would be great if it was, but of course it's not. No one is ever going to be able to explain it black and white for you. But it's about being open-minded, and it's about playing with it. Like, be curious and say, if that was a sign, what do I think it might mean? What could it be telling me? What could it be sharing with me? What could I learn from it? What do I intuitively feel it's telling me? And here's the thing, is that some people will email me and they'll say, "B, this happened to me. Do you think it's a sign? Do you think I should follow it? What do you think I should do?" And the question I always ask back to them is this: what do you think you should do? What do you think you should do? Because if you ask people genuinely what they think they should do and ask them to close their eyes and take a moment, most people do already know. And I made a video on YouTube recently which was called One Key to Shortcutting the Issues in Your Life, and it's about that. It's about people not trusting their intuition, and that if they would trust their initial gut instinct, they would shortcut most of the problems in their life and achieve what they want with greater ease and with greater speed and efficiency as well. There is one other trap with signals, and that is people can also become in a position where they won't do anything until they get a confirmation or a divine signal to tell them what to do. That is not how life works. You are the one that is living your life. You're a soul here having a life journey, and yes, divinity is guiding you, and yes, there's spirit guides working with you on your behalf like an entourage surrounding you, but you were born with free will. And that's the human journey. You have free will choice, and you can move in any direction that you choose, and there are numerous paths you can take, endless possibilities available to you, and that is how you design your life. It's not preset. There is a dance and a marriage of your soul's intention and your human free will together. And so what you want to be doing is not sitting and waiting for the universe to tell you what to do, because it's not going to happen. The universe responds to your energy. You have to participate in your life and set your intent in your direction and ask for guidance and take action and participate in order for you to generate a flow and a momentum and a response from the universe. You can't sit on your chuff on a seat waiting for something to turn up at your doorstep to tell you what to do. You've got to start to participate in life, and then the energy and the flow starts happening, and signals will start to bombard you from there. The other thing with signals is that they're not always completely literal. Sometimes they actually are. But generally speaking, I say look at the overall symbology of a signal and look at the general flow and direction it's pointing you in. And look at the general flow and direction of what you're doing. If you have a signal and you think, wow, that was definitely not coincidence, this definitely feels like a signal, pay attention to how you've been behaving, how you're being, what you're doing, and what direction you're heading in, and then look at the signal and say, how could this potentially relate? What might it be calling me to recognize? What might it be asking me to remember? What could I consider about my current situation? Is it confirming my direction? Am I being guided into something else? Am I being asked to change something? Is this interrupting my pattern? And start to have a look and see it at a higher perspective and a broader perspective without getting too lost and caught up in the details. So a very quick finish off is to say, well, how can you be more aware of signals in your life? And here is what I will tell you, the number one thing. If you are lost in your head, constantly talking to yourself in your mind, thinking about the past, thinking about the future, rehearsing conversations, worrying about what's going to happen, and not present, you won't recognize signals in your life. Just like you won't recognize any level of intuition, you won't really be fully participating in any actual conversations that you're having with real people that are in front of you. You'll miss out on the beauty of life around you. You miss out on everything when you're in your head because you're lost in your head. And there's a great video that I watch on YouTube. Sometimes it's just a 90-second clip, and it talks about if you're living life in your mind, you're not really living your life, because you're either constantly in the past or in the future, which are the only two places you can be if you're not in the present moment. And the thing is that your soul seeks to speak to you, and the universe seeks to speak to you in the present moment, and only in the present moment. So to be more present and more consciously aware, it's simply about saying, well, how can I not be in my mind? Well, tune into your 5 senses. Use your breathing to be present. Do deep diaphragmatic breathing regularly throughout the day. It really hones your awareness into your physical body and grounds you and helps you to be aware and present. Really see the sights around you, really smell the smells, really touch and be present and interactive in the activities that you're in. So when you walk to work, or when you are taking a walk in nature, or when you're playing with your children, or when you're with your pets, or whatever it is, really give them your full attention. That's being in the present. That's being really there with whatever's being said to you, with whatever's going on visually around you, with whatever you can hear, and it helps you to be present. And when you're present like that, you'll notice so many different things. You'll notice so many little things around you. Aside from being consciously aware and present, it helps to be curious. Be curious about what's going on around you. Know that life speaks to you, and when you know life and the universe is speaking to you, you want to pay attention and you want to be curious about what things mean, and you want to be curious about how life is interacting with you and how you relate to the world around you and how you perceive and see it and what you think it means. And not dismissing it, and really anticipating that signs show up in your life, and not getting caught on, oh, when's the next sign coming, and am I going to get a sign, and I really need to get a sign, and looking for it everywhere. Because that energy is just kind of fearful and intense, and you don't need that. It's really just to simply say, I trust. Divinity knows when to show up with the signs. There's no two ways about that, and I trust in that, and when they show up, I'll notice them, and I'll know, and I'll be curious, and I'll make sense of it, and I know I'm guided, and I know that guidance will come at the time that is best for me. So a final note just to finish off the topic is to just remember why that's important. It's important to know that life is speaking to you, the universe is speaking to you with divine signals, and that's because it reminds you you are not a physical being alone. There is no need for you to feel like you have to navigate just constantly based on your physical body and your thinking mind. There's much more to who you are and to this life and this reality that you're experiencing than just simply what's going on in your mind and in your physical body. You're fully connected, and therefore the universe wants you to know that you are supported and guided, and for you to feel that support and guidance and to have trust and faith in it. So I hope this has been useful, maybe just to bring the concept of signals back into your life or to introduce you to it. If it is something that you're interested in, you can check out my books that I wrote earlier, Pinch Me and Going Out on a Limb, which go into that in a lot of detail. And if you'd like to receive more YouTube videos and audios to support you to unleash your inner peace, your freedom and your success personally and professionally in all areas, please do subscribe to my YouTube channel, as I love to share weekly content with you, and I look forward to staying connected with you. Thank you so much for listening.